everyone. Welcome to Tips and Tricks with WriterDuet. My name is Hannah. I'm part of the support team here at WriterDuet. And with us, we also have Spencer, who's part of the support team at WriterDuet. If you want to say hi, Spencer.
Heyo.
We're really excited for y'all to join us tonight for Tips and Tricks. We're going to cover some different information than we did in our previous session. Tonight, we're going to be talking about kind of how to do some organization in your scripts and how to do some analysis in your scripts. And hopefully we'll give you some great tricks to help your writing process in WriterDuet be as strong and as fluid and whatever you need as possible. So thanks for joining us tonight. If you have any questions throughout the event this evening, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Spencer's going to be watching those comments, and then we have some kind of segments throughout where we'll stop and he'll kind of feed those questions to me, and we'll get through as many as we can in tonight's event. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. There we go. So I apologize for my view. I've got my script over here and I've got my notes here. So I will try and talk to you as much as possible, but I'll be going back and forth. So tonight we have our script here already crafted. This is one that I moved over from another screenplay. You may be familiar with it, you may not be. What we like to always start with is that the format for projects in WriterDuet is that you have projects and you have documents. So I like to think of projects like a cocoon where all of your content for your story is going to live. So you're going to have your default document here, you're going to have your title page, and you're going to have a private pad. And if you choose to create any character lists or you have any other side notes or anything like that, it's going to live in this main project here. And you're always going to find this docs widget here under this project info and docs tab. You may be like, well, I'm not familiar with this layout. What are you working in? This is actually called the hybrid layout. It's my personal preference because I like to have the top menu here. But we also have our simplified, which is going to be the default layout. So like when you log in, this is the layout that you see. And if you're looking to change it, you just select this little cogwheel and then you can select the layout that you prefer. We have a few different ones, but hybrid is definitely my favorite. I don't know about you, Spencer. What's your favorite?
Definitely a simplified sort of guy, but I do enjoy hybrid as well. So yeah. Both are probably my two.
Yeah, they're both really great. I think I'm just going to go off a tangent here. The benefits, I think, of simplified and hybrid is this sidebar here. We have our classic, which is our one that we've been using for forever, but you lose the sidebar, and I really like having the sidebar. So, all right, off of my tangent now, back to the real deal. So you've got your projects and your documents. You'll always find it under this project info and docs tab. I've already titled it here. My name is here. Let's talk about outlining. We get a lot of questions about how can I create my outline in WriterDuet, and especially how can I create it and then build my script off of that. And the wonderful thing is that it's already built into the formatting that is allowed in the script. So if you've written anything so far in WriterDuet, you know that you have all of your different line types. And one of those line types is this outline line type. If you're like, how did you get there so quick? This little icon is your line types and tools widget, and that's where you'll find your line types. You can also change your line type through format line type and select it here. And you also have the keyboard shortcut for each of the line types. So for outline, it doesn't list it here, but it's actually Command 0. If I click Command here, you can see that Command 0 is the shortcut for outline lines. So we're going to add some outline lines here in the script, and I'll show you how they display and then how you can use them with the cards mode and your script itself. You may be starting with just your scene headings and your outline lines, and you don't have any of your content for your scene yet. It's whatever it is for your writing process, right? But either way, I'm going to add my outline lines just below my scene headings here. That's my choice, but I can put them anywhere here beneath this particular scene heading and it will appear how I want it to. I'm going to select outline line, or I can do the command shortcut, and then I can place the information in my outline line here. So let's say, for example, this is the first scene of, if you haven't guessed it yet, the movie is Clue. It is my favorite movie, hence why we're using this script. Where was I? Putting an outline line in. This is the first scene. This is where we meet Wadsworth. We meet the house, because the house is a character. And we meet the mood, the creepy mood of Clue. Whatever you need in your outline line, maybe you want to go into like some sort of synopsis of what the scene is going to be. You can include as much in that outline line as you need to. You could do multiple outline lines if you wanted to. So I'm going to do this for a couple of these scenes. The front door, we meet the dogs. Wadsworth steps and poop. Anybody knows this film? Okay, and I'm gonna do one more here. We see the hall for the first time. This is not necessarily what you would include in your outline lines, but for the purposes of getting text onto paper, this is what we're doing tonight. What I can do with these outline lines is a few different things. Let's say I don't want to see them in my script anymore. I can go up here to options and I can check this box here or uncheck it to show outline and check it again to reveal it. So I can put the outline lines into my script and then hide them away so that I don't have to see them all of the time. It's definitely a nice little tool to have. The other thing that I can do is I can filter my script down to just my scene headings and my outline lines. So if all I wanted to do was go through really quick, like we're doing, and put in all of my outline lines for everything, filter, then I can just go, let me do that again. That was super fast. Filter, all line types. I'm gonna uncheck this and then just select scene and outline. And it's just gonna bring up just my scene lines and eventually all of my outline lines. So then I could continue from here and continue writing my outline lines. We meet Yvette. I don't remember how to spell Yvette's name. Is there a Y in there? Probably. I'm messing that up. Oh, it's so wrong. There it is. I knew I got it wrong. So I could continue to do that for the rest of the script and have all those outline lines. I can then go back up to filter here and check the box for all line types. And there I've got all of my content back. So that's, of course, if you have content in your scenes. If you don't have that yet, then all you're doing is writing your scene headings and your outlines. Let's say that you don't have that. Let's go down here to the bottom where I don't have, or I can create a new scene that doesn't have any content. So if I hit enter and hit enter again, then I can select scene. It kind of gives me that auto formatting that I want. I can say interior, ground floor, hall, night. And then I can do an outline line here. We meet Mrs. White, whatever it is. So you don't have to have content in your scene in order to add outline lines. It's just adding outline lines, which is fantastic. Let's talk about how outline lines function in cards mode. So I can switch over to cards mode here by selecting this option and selecting cards. This isn't taking quite as long as it did last time because I had a full feature-length script. Right, Spencer?
That is true. Yeah, if your script is longer, you may find whenever you change into a different mode like this, it take longer because it's loading every single one of the scenes from that feature film. So I'm glad we are not doing that this time.
Yeah. Clue is an exceptionally long screenplay as well, so that's why it took a little bit longer. 3 endings, you know? So in cards mode here, if you're not familiar with cards mode, the key is everything that's in cards mode is the exact same thing as your page view, right? You've got 3 views here. You've got page view, cards, and mind map. Everything that's in cards is the exact same in your page view. If I change it here, it's going to change in the page view. If I change it in the page view, it's going to change here. It's simply just giving you a different lens to look at your content. So you can see that I've got my scene headings here and I've got my outline lines. Each card starts with a scene heading because that's how we designate a card. Each card is a scene. That's the only way that they will be divided. If you're working with a stage play and you're doing acts, those will display differently. And Spencer, remind me to talk about acts in card mode a little bit later, because I think it's a really helpful hint that we do get a question about every now and then at help@writerduet.com. So I will come back to that.
Duly noted.
Back to outline lines in cards mode. This is one of my favorite things that cards mode does because I like organization and cleanliness, and you can filter the cards down to just the scene headings and the outline lines. And you can do that by going to options and use outline mode, and blammo. All you have are your scene headings and your outline lines, and it's beautiful. And so then you can go through in cards mode probably a lot faster than you can go through in the page view and create your outline, just like you would if you had note cards and you were doing your scene headings and you were writing all of your notes about outline on that. You can do it here in cards mode. And then later on, when you're ready to start adding content to your scene, you can do it here in cards mode if you want. Just go back up here and uncheck the box for use outline mode and start adding content to your scenes. And it's going to show up right here in your default document. So let's say, for example, scene 5 here. I don't have an outline line. I just want to show you the syncing between these 2 views. So click on my scene line here, enter. I'm going to say command 0 because I want an outline line. We meet the cook. It's here in scene 5 in my cards view. If I go over to default document, there it is right there. It shows up. You may be wondering, and I could just be assuming here, but you may be wondering why there are numbers in the corners here, and you may not be seeing that perhaps on WriterDuet for yourself. And the reason for that is because I have scene numbering turned on in my script here. And so if you don't have scene numbering turned on, you can do so by going to Customize, Page. There we go. And then under numbering line type, make sure you select scene and then check the box for number. So if they're not on, this is how it will look. And then you check this box and you will have scene numbering. And so then it will display in your cards view as well. Let's talk about, I'm going to close that out. Let's talk about the cards widget. So the cards widget is simply just like a smaller version of cards mode over here in a side panel. It's the exact same content, like I said, as in cards mode that is in your page view. It's just a little side view of it, which is really convenient. Best thing about having this little widget is you can do the same thing of filtering down to just scene headings and outline lines. You can toggle widget options with this little upside down, I like to call it an upside down pyramid. It's an arrow, whatever you want to call it. Select options and then select use outline mode. So then you filter this down. There's a lot less to have to weed through here. And then you can just select the scene number. If you don't have scene numbers turned on, it's going to be a little navigations arrow. Let's say I want to go to scene 13. I click it here. Boom. It jumps me right into, I feel like Emerald Lagasse, right? Is that his name? I'm just like boom, jumps you right into your scene in the script. This is a fantastic way of navigating your script really, really quickly. Okay, the next awesome thing about cards mode and in the widget or in the cards mode full page view is that you can drag and drop cards to rearrange them. And that is going to rearrange your scenes in the script for you. So if you're like, oh, I decided that I want what is currently scene 5 to actually be scene 8, and I want scene 10 to now be scene 3, you can just drag and drop them to rearrange. So if I want 5 to now be scene 8, and I want scene 10, it's going to renumber them for you. So keep that in mind. I want scene 10 to now be scene 3. You drag and drop it, and it's going to rearrange that in the cards mode. And then it's also going to rearrange it in the script here for you. So what did I do? I dragged 5 now to scene 8. See if I can find it. There we go. There is scene 5 now as scene 8, and it will renumber it for you. Also with scene numbering, just a quick little to know is as long as you have update automatically turned on, it's going to redo that numbering for you. It also allows you to do any manual changes if you want. So if I wanted this to be 7A, then it's going to update the counting. It's going to follow that pattern until I disrupt the pattern again. Like so. And then it will pick up the numbering there. Awesome. Spencer, do we have any questions, any musings, anything I need to go back over?
Oh, I have a lot of musings, but that's just for me. Amazingly enough, this is our first time doing this event on Facebook, and some of the questions some of y'all had, some of y'all, other y'alls, were helping answer those questions. So I really appreciate you guys jumping on in and chiming in and helping out. Somebody had just asked about scene numbering being just for a shooting script or a reading script. It's sort of your preference in the way you would like to work, in the way that you would like to understand, as Hannah said, keep organized, know if your scenes are numbered. You can go and redo those scene numberings after, even if you move some things around. Keith had asked about renumbering the scenes at the very end of a script. Is that something you can do if you uncheck that box to automatically change the numbers? As well as scene numbering like 7A, B, and C will probably happen like that. Is that correct as well too?
Yes. So the nice thing is, like, if you have update numbering checked and you change a scene number, let's say I just have 7 and then 7A, and then I want to immediately go to 8, then it's going to update that for me. There we go. So it's going to update it for me. But if I go in and come on now, I turn off the automatic update, then I basically have control and I can manually adjust each scene number that I want to adjust. And it's not going to affect any of the others. So you have a lot of control here. If you go into the customized page, also, if you don't have a window of WriterDuet open and are trying these things, I highly recommend it. That way, if you're like, I'm not seeing what you're seeing, we can help you out. You have a lot of options here. If you've if you've altered your numbers a lot and you're like, it's not what it should be, you can always clear the numbers and redo them. Whatever option you need here, you've pretty much got it. You also have under production, you can lock line numbers. So if you want them to stay as they are, and if you add new things for it to update the numbering that way, you can lock the line numbers through production, lock line numbers.
And before we move on, one other question we had here from Tyler Jane. They were asking about the different icons in the sidebar. They're wanting to know, is there a way to remove any of those icons from their sidebar with whatever layout that you have?
Indeed. So you can pull these icons off and drag and drop them. My computer's being slow because I'm running like 50 things on it. Zoom and Facebook and all the things. So you can drag these icons. Come on, man. Work with me here. Why is it not letting me do it? I don't know why what's happening tonight. My computer is just really slow. All right, let's try this. You can move the widgets one by one and that will remove them. So if I drag this, I get this little trash can icon. It's like, I don't want the tools widget. It's going to get rid of it for me. And because this is still the top widget, it's still giving me this icon. If I pull the line types one and then remove it, then I no longer have that. If I go into this sidebar selection right here, I've got my comments. Oops. I've got my comments and I've got my chat. If I take the comments and I remove it, then it's going to change my icon here because this widget is the one that's bumped up to the top widget or the only widget in this particular one. I could remove all of these if I wanted to. If you're really looking to like customize your workspace, we recommend this custom layout, which allows you to then open the widgets options here and drag and drop the widgets where you want. So like, let's say you want private pad over here and, oh, I didn't want that. I placed it in the wrong area.
Uh-oh.
Go away.
The nice thing too, as we'll see in a moment, you can also, if you move around some icons and you made a mistake of any kind, you can always reset those things back to the original default of that layout. So I know right now we're in custom and moving some things around in custom, but if let's say you're moving some icons around in simplified and you make a mistake and you're, oh man, I got rid of my line types and I really needed that, you can go back and where it has all the different layouts and hit reset, and it'll reset the template, or the layout back to the original way that it was before.
If I go back to hybrid here, and my computer's running slow. There we go. So it's reset my layout. It's brought back those widgets that I deleted previously. Know that if you log out and like fully log out of WriterDuet and log back in, it will take you back to the default like reset layouts. So if you have a customized layout that you really, really like, we do recommend logging out every now and then, but you can stay logged in as long as possible to work in that particular layout. We will probably do a tips and tricks at some point that like goes into immense detail about like all of the customization options. This is a really cool one. I'm just going to show you because I can. I'm going to drag and drop the line types one, and you can put it up here in this top bar, and like you have that quick little bar to pick your line types from. If you're not used to the short keys, or if short keys aren't like your personal preference, you do have that option there. Cool. All right. I think I closed my page view somehow. I don't know how I did that. There we go. Okay. We are going to now talk about a really cool feature, which is the tagger feature. If you're like me, you probably like color coding things, which is what the tagger allows you to do. There we go. Okay. You can tag in cards mode. You can tag in page view. So you can tag cards. You can tag lines of text. You can tag individual words. You have a lot of different options. So if I'm in cards view, I'm going to come out of outline mode here. And tagging is one of those things that it's entirely up to you what you need. So perhaps you want to tag all of the cards based on the location in which they're being shot. Or perhaps you want to tag all of the cards based on a character that's in them. And so then you can have this kind of like bird's eye view of how often this character appears throughout the script. Whatever it is, tagging is entirely customizable to what you need. So let's say we're going to tag all of the cards for the scenes that take place in the library. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to say open tagger, or you can see that we have this keyboard shortcut here, open tagger, and then I'm going to name it. I'm just going to say library and enter. If I hit enter, then it'll tag it, or I can select this and choose a different color if I would like. These are your color options. And hit enter, and it's going to go ahead and color the entire card, which is really great. So I'm going to tag a few more of these. If I right click, open tagger, and then I say library. So now it keeps a collection, a list of any of the tags that I've created. And then I can just check the box for that. And now it's got my library tag. Let's say I want to label the kitchen or tag the kitchen yellow. So now I've got my list going of all of the different locations. Where's another library one? There we go. Tagger and library. So now I have this filter option, which allows me to filter down to just the library cards. Let's see, filter. There we go. So now I filter down to just all of the scenes that take place in the library, which makes it really easy. Or perhaps I'm tagging based on characters, or what are some other things we can tag based on, Spencer?
Some props, costumes, maybe things that for production purposes we're going to need to look at quickly for the rest of the production heads on something.
Yes. So it's really great for color coding in cards. Now, let's say you're doing it specifically for props in your main document. So then let's say we've got Wadsworth takes out a key. So then I'm going to highlight that, right click. Why am I right clicking? Tools. And then I'm going to create a prop tag. And I'm going to say purple. So now any prop is going to be purple. So then he exits the car holding a bag, purple. So if you're in charge of props or whatever for production purposes, I myself in my free time am a stage manager. So this is like gold and magic. Because then I can later go on and filter down to just the lines that hold the props tagged items. And then I can easily create a prop list from that or whatever it is that I need to do. Tagging and filtering is fantastic. Perhaps you want to tag lines based on information. Say, talking about scene description. So any line like the Hill House is remarkable, elegant, but not gaudy. That's talking about scene description. I need to know that in terms of production design. So I can tag it in the, I can tag the entire line and it's going to give me a little color marker here. If I scroll down to scene 5 where there's a library scene, you'll see that the tag that I gave in the cards mode also appears in the margin here for that. So let's say I then also tag this as a descriptive scene, even though it is a descriptive action line, then my other tag is going to appear here in the margin. So then you've got color coding in your script as well, which is great. Any questions regarding tagging and your capabilities with tagging?
I posted in our comments section the knowledge base article that covers tagging, as well as our video tutorial we produced covering the same stuff. But one thing that a comment that was brought up about tagger with characters, let's say you might have a ton of characters needing to tag multiple scenes with those characters. Is there another way we can maybe have a filtered out document covering just our characters? We can just filter to one character at a time, or maybe multiple. Is there another way we can do that besides tagger?
Yes, so you can filter down through using the reports feature. So it depends on exactly what your goal is, but you've got this view dialogue one, which is going to allow you to just filter out the script to just a particular character's dialogue, or you've got this character scenes one, which is going to filter down to the scenes that that character is present in, and it's going to include all of the content of the scene, but it just allows you to kind of like pull out everything that that character is involved in. So let's actually talk about the dialogue one really quick. So I click reports and then dialogue, and then I can select whichever character I would like to see. So let's say specifically just the cook, Mrs. Ho, and I say view. It's just going to filter down to her single line in the film.
I love that you knew exactly that she only had one line.
I know this film. I'm just going to be honest. This is my favorite film. And if you're like, oh my goodness, where did the rest of my script go? Remember that this is just filtering. All of your content is still there. And you can see that the report is active over here in your modes widget. This modes widget is always going to pop up on the right-hand side unless you choose to move it in your layout. But you'll see that the active report is here, and then you can click this X. If you're like, I'm not seeing the modes widget, but I know that I activated a report, click this little arrow in the right-hand corner and it'll open that side panel and you'll be able to see the modes widget. So I can click this and it's going to bring all of my content back. I can do it again for a different character, view dialogue. Let's see, I just want Wadsworth, no Mrs. Ho, and I view. And now I have all of Wadsworth's dialogue for that portion of the script. If I want to include, come on, load faster, there we go, scene headings, then I can include scene headings so that I can divide up their dialogue based on the scene. So if I just want to give them something, give the actor something that's like, these are all of your lines, you may not necessarily need the other person's lines in the scene, however, whatever their process is, you can export this for them. But they know it's divided by the scene. And as long as you have what you want visible on the page in front of you, if you go to File, Export PDF, Default Visible, it's going to export what you see right in front of you. So if this is what you filtered to, this is what you'll get upon export. Ooh. I just collapsed the scene without wanting to. Stab it. There we go. If you're wondering, these little side arrows collapse the scene for you. Look at that. 'Tis magic. If you're like, I want to collapse all of my scenes at once, you can go to Tools, Outliner, Skeleton, and Collapse All. And then it just collapses all of your scenes for you. And then you're like, I want to edit scene 8. And then you can go in and edit scene 8 and then collapse it again. And if you want all of them back, Tools, Outliner, Skeleton, Expand All. There we go. There's all of your content back. Now, the character scenes one, like I mentioned, is different. This is going to include all of the content that the scene contains. It's just going to allow you to pull out those scenes. As a theater person and a stage manager who's had to prepare auditions before, this is fantastic when you're trying to get sides. If you're like, I just want a scene, I know there's a scene with these two people, I want to just pull out that scene, then you can use this character scenes report. Let's say I just want the scenes between Wadsworth and Colonel Mustard because, come on, who doesn't want the scenes between Wadsworth and Colonel Mustard? You have two options here, any and all. Any is going to pull any of the scenes that either character is in. So it could be a scene that Wadsworth is in, but Colonel Mustard is not in, and vice versa. If you're wanting scenes, only scenes in which both characters are present, then you're going to select the all option. So I'll start with the any one. And as I mentioned, it's going to include all of the scene's content. So Wadsworth is in this scene and Colonel Mustard is in this scene. But we have other characters as well. If I do reports, character scene, and I do all, then I just have the scenes with that have Wadsworth and Colonel Mustard and Mrs. White. It may not have done that the first time around. It did it for me earlier, I promise. I was messing with this earlier and it did it for me earlier. Come on. Don't embarrass me on Facebook Live. You're killing me, Smalls. Let me try that again, because that annoyed me. If I do any Wadsworth and Colonel Mustard, it should bring up a scene that only Wadsworth is. There it is. It did it this time. So it's going to bring up scenes that Wadsworth is in, but Colonel Mustard may not be in as well. Okay. Awesome sauce. Speaking of reports, one of the best reports that you can do is the document statistics report. Now, this isn't going to be as glorious as it would be for the actual feature length script, but but it's going to generate a lot of really great data. So you've got kind of 4 areas of content here. You've got your general statistics, which is going to talk about your page count, your word count, your speaking characters, your pages per scene, and so forth. Then you've got your gender overview. You've got your lines by type. So this is a really great way to kind of see how dialogue heavy versus action heavy your script is. And then you've got your writing metrics for each of the characters. Now, my gender overview content is not accurate because not all of my genders are assigned as needed for my characters here. So if I go in, actually, Colonel Mustard is a male, a female. This is how I believe they identify. Female, male, body is a male. There we go. And so this is updated now. So it's 65% of my words and 67% of my lines are male versus female, which is disheartening for my favorite film, but you know, I'll let it slide. A lot of that's Tim Curry, and you know, I mean, it's Tim Curry. But Spencer, do you want to share a little bit about how you in screenwriting use these kinds of metrics?
100%. Yeah, I think for me, whenever I've worked on a feature and collaborate on something like this, using document statistics is helpful for a sense of macro scale, even though it gets down to the micro stuff of characters and the lines they say. And another way, it also helps me see in percentages wise how much is happening in a bigger film. So in particular, just kind of off the top of my head, looking at this, something like how much dialogue versus action is happening for a movie like this, which has a ton of dialogue, a ton of funny conversations. It's totally normal to have 50% of your script be those dialogue line types. But if I was making an action film and had a lot of people talking and I wasn't having a lot of things happening, it would give me a sense as a writer, hey, I might need to pull back on the expositional dialogue and really just have people doing things and getting things in motion, or vice versa. Maybe I have too much action and nobody has any idea what is going on or what the context is. So having statistics like this for me as a writer is really helpful for that, as well as characters. I mean, if I have my main character only talking one line in the whole film, if that's my style and that's my choice, like the movie Drive, for example, you know, Ryan Gosling's character doesn't have a ton of dialogue, and that's a stylistic choice, but it helps me stay consistent with that hook of him not having a ton of dialogue and staying action focused. So as a writer, I think like keeping things to scale and understanding that I need to focus on one thing or the other depending on the choices I know I want to make is very helpful here.
Awesome. Thank you, Spencer.
And Luke wants to know how we get to reports, and we walk those steps one more time.
So you've got your reports menu option up here at the top. And then these are all of the reports options. So document statistics is going to be the first. And then you've got the remainder here. The other great thing is you have in your tools widget here, you've got all of these tools built in by default. These are the ones that come with the layout by default. If you switch over to classic layout, it gives you your line types and tools widgets in a slightly different view. So for example, you just have the icons, but it's the same options that are available. If you would like to change the options that are available, you can go into customize. And I apologize if I forget for a moment where these are located. Man, my computer is slow today. I apologize, y'all. Doing too many things at once. There we go. Okay, I was correct. You can customize your toolbar icons here. And one of the options is document statistics. So if you use document statistics a lot, you can put this in your toolbar icons. And so you can quickly grab that content if as you're writing along, you're like, sweet, I wrote 10 pages today. Let's see what I did in terms of how much dialogue I gave so-and-so versus the other character and whatever you need. You've got a lot of other options here. You've got your settings, you've got the tagger tool. So if you use the tagger tool a lot, you can put that right into your toolbar selections and place that there. Yeah, so you can customize all of these. You can click it again to remove it, click it to add it, and so forth. Switch back to hybrid. A lot of customization and layout. We will definitely do a layout customization tips and tricks and maybe come up with some really interesting layouts. If you're like, this is the writing that I do and this is the layout that I do, like share a screenshot of what layout you create for yourself and what your workflow looks like, because we love to see that. We love to see how our writers are making the app their own, which is fantastic. Another really great report that you can do is the scenes and locations one, which again, as a stage manager in my free time and also an avid spreadsheet lover, this is my favorite report of all of the reports. It's so beautiful. So you go to reports and locations and scenes. It's going to take a minute to generate. There we go. And it's going to divide your scenes based on their location. And then you have some additional options up here at the top. So let's say you have sub locations or sub descriptors in your scene headings. So for example, you've got like interior ground floor, but then you've got the hall, or, well, I don't know why it's listed 2 different times. That's a typo in the script, but you've got the hall here, you've got the hill house, you've got front door, you've got front gate, you've got front driveway, and so forth. You can divide it like that. You can divide it by interior and exterior scenes. You can also include the characters in these scenes so that you can start to pull that information. So for production purposes, this is very useful to be able to create that organization of what's going to be filmed when and so forth. You can also change the order that this appears in, however you need it to appear. What else we got? My subs went away. My computer is not happy. She is not happy with all this running. Any other questions about reports and options there?
Looks like we're in good shape. One thing to know again, if your layout is not the way Hannah's is, that top menu, all those menu options at the top in our simplified layout are in a 3-line icon, or sometimes we'll call it the hamburger icon. So you can always just click that, or if you prefer the way that Hannah has it, again, we always recommend hybrid. One thing to know with layout in general, and anything that comes with using outline lines or reports, the way you want to do things is the way you should do things. The nice thing about having all the tools that we have in the app is you can kind of customize as you go along that best fits your workflow. The things we're particularly presenting to you right now are things that are just going to help make things faster and help things clearer. Having that clarity is very important, especially when you don't have time to sort of sift through a ton of things and have a lot of people working on a project. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. There, and like with the widgets, like we said, there's a lot of customization there. And so there is oftentimes multiple ways to access whatever tool or feature you're trying to access. Typically, that's going to be a menu option and a shortcut, like a keyboard shortcut. But there's also sometimes it's in the menu and sometimes it's in its own little widget. For example, sharing. There's a share menu option, but there's also the share icon here on the sidebar. And like Spencer said, choose the path that works for you, the flow that works for you. I'm not a huge keyboard shortcut person. I use what I know, but also the more frequently I work in a particular application, the more I pick up those keyboard shortcuts. Speaking of keyboard shortcuts, do want to show you, I'll just pop a window open really quick, help.writerduet.com, which is our knowledge base. We do have a whole article dedicated to just the keyboard shortcuts. And the best thing about this is that it's laid out really well. So you can just click this little print icon here and print yourself out a cheat sheet. So if you're kind of new in the app and you're like, I want to learn all the shortcuts, I don't know what they are, make yourself a little cheat sheet to have on the side, and you can use all of these shortcuts. These are kind of common shortcuts that most editing softwares use, like Command C, Command X, Command C, all of those things to copy and paste and save and so forth. And then, of course, there's the line type shortcuts, and these are going to be in order of how they appear in the line types tool, but also in order of kind of importance. So typically you're going to want a lot of scene lines, a lot of action lines, a lot of character, parenthetical, and dialogue, and then they go down from there. This is probably like the first thing that a lot of writers learn in terms of shortcuts because you use it so often. But also the app is really intuitive, and just hitting enter and tab and so forth will allow you to change the line type in the app. If you prefer to use Alt or Option, you can change your settings. You'll need to go into Customize Editing in order to change your settings to use those instead, but that is a possibility if you're more comfortable with that. Our general formatting shortcuts. I want specifically, we have a lot of different tools, shortcuts that you can use here. I want to specifically talk about the graveyard shortcuts. I would do a show of hands who's used graveyard, but I can't. Maybe you can wave in the comments and we'll know what that means. The graveyard is really fantastic when you have something in the script that you're not quite sure about, but you don't want to completely delete and lose track of. So you can cut things over into the graveyard and then cut them back into the script, or paste them back into the script as needed. So let's say I'm not really sure about Mustard sipping cognac and glancing at Yvette. So the shortcut was Command-Shift-X, and it's going to cut it over into the graveyard for me. It's probably taking forever to load. My computer is not happy.
Oh no.
It's completely frozen on me. I can't do anything. No.
You gave that compliment to that report, and then it felt kind of shy and fussy, and now it's lashing
now
out at
it's
you.
like, what is happening? Oh no. Well, are there any questions that I can answer right now while I wait for my computer to catch up?
I can answer a question that Luke is asking. They're saying, is there a way to estimate how long time-wise the screenplay is roughly? Depending, it's usually 1 minute to one page. This can also sort of be different if you have a ton of action as action or versus dialogue. Dialogue can happen very fast. A great example of this is the first scene in The Social Network, that film from 2010. Very iconic. That first scene is a dialogue scene. I think the page count of that is something like 10, 15-ish pages, but it's because the dialogue's happening so quickly, the film itself is much shorter. So a guesstimation usually is 1 page to 1 minute. Again, a film is truly rewritten 3 times as a screenplay, and then in production when things are produced, and then in the edit. So all those things can change. But when people are thinking about runtime, 120-page script, 2-hour film. That's usually just a good litmus point for that.
Great question. It did it. Finally. She was slow, she was lazy, but she did it. I promise my computer usually runs ridiculously fast and the cutting is beautiful, but she doesn't like the live streaming to Facebook tonight. She's not a fan of it. So you can cut it over into the graveyard here and save it for later. You can just do Command X and then you can paste it into graveyard. So as you can see, graveyard opens here in this little side panel for you, so you can keep it open. If you prefer to have it on the left-hand side, you can drag and drop it over here into this panel. There we go. So you can have it on the left-hand side, whatever you need. But the graveyard is a great place to be able to hold on to some content that you may want in the script later on. She's mad again. What are your favorite keyboard shortcuts, Spencer? I'm curious.
I love the line type ones. I think it was funny because I was just talking to a writer during a support experience where they didn't want to have to go back to the line types widget every time they wanted to change their line type. They could also just move it to the top. But one thing that's for me, especially as coming from video editing over to screenwriting, having just quick things to change what tool I'm using or what line type I'm using is very useful. Like in editing, using B for Blade or something like that into Resolve or Premiere. Same thing where I just want to get to an action line quickly. I want to get to a dialogue line quickly. I want to get to a transition line type quickly. I think that's probably my favorite. Just having that same kind of fluency in using editing versus screenplay editing.
I agree. It just really helps with the flow of things. Just your writing is just gonna get a flow to it, and it's just gonna keep going, which is great. Which we're working on like a goal tracking feature, which is really exciting. Let's see, we have a little bit of time left. I want to talk about commenting. If you're not familiar with it, this is a great way to provide feedback for yourself or or for an editor or a collaborator to provide feedback in your document. So if I hover over a line, you'll see that this little comments bubble pops up for us in the margin. So if I select this, then I can leave a comment on that particular line. And if I close this, that will show up as a solid outlined comment bubble. And so whoever I'm collaborating with or whoever I'm leaving edits for can go back and they can see that there's been a comment left. They'll get a notification that a comment was left, and then they can also open the comments widget here and they can see all of those comments. I don't know. She's so slow and she's so unhappy.
She's right at the finish line too.
Come, hang in there. Come on, Mac. You can do it. You can do it. I promise. I don't know why she's not recognizing the comment. That makes me really sad. I left a comment. Gosh darn it.
There it is.
Well, it's showing up here. I don't know why it's not showing up in the widget tonight. I think she's just really unhappy with everything that I'm doing. It shows up in the widget, you guys. I'm sorry about that.
Which is a good transition slightly to if you run into this very same thing, which we see all the time and we experience all the time, please feel free to reach out to us with the support team. Our email is help@writerduet.com. Things like this happen all the time with lots of web-based softwares, and we're here to help when that happens because we go through it all the time too.
Besides the live streaming basically taking up all of the, I don't know computer terms, you guys don't, is it RAM? Is that it? Whatever is
power. RAM. Just say the power.
Whatever. Okay. Oh God, that's embarrassing. Besides it taking up all that power, what trivia, Spencer, what would be probably my number one solution to this issue? If I do something and it doesn't show up the way that I want it to, I should try it again in a
Oh, you're giving me half the answer while asking me at the same time. But I would, if you're running into something like this, one thing to always go is to open an incognito window, just to get a fresh iteration of the site that isn't cached. Sometimes what's happening when, like what Hannah experienced, is trying to bring back old information from the script and new information from the script all at the same time. All of your projects have what's called an infinite history timeline. So it has the infinite history of every edit you've made of that script. So for a longer script, if you have a 120-page script, it has the infinite history of that 120-page script and everything you've done. So sometimes you might run into something. So opening an incognito window is a good way just to check to make sure things are good. And if things do look good in an incognito window, just going back to your regular web browser, logging out and logging back in should get a fresh iteration, clear the cache, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I really think going into an incognito window in this situation would really help. It's been going through a lot this evening, and with a lot running in the background, so it's too much for my dear little MacBook. My dear little MacBook. Well, any other burning questions? Anything we can review for anyone?
Yeah, if you have any last comments, definitely leave them here. And if we don't get to them all, again, also reach out to us via email. Hannah's mentioned this a couple times. We saw the keyboard shortcuts one. I've been sending some to y'all through the chat. Our knowledge base is a really, really, really great in-depth resource to use at any time. It's help@writerduet.com. It has in categories different things you can cover, things like this, things we covered today with project and documents, layouts that we've talked about today, sharing and collaborating, some of the tools and reports that we've gone over, bunch of articles there, a few little sprinkled video tutorials here and there as well. If you're not seeing something that you're quite wanting us to cover in the knowledge base that you're wondering about, let us know. We were trying to expand this and make this better to help make sure that you guys get the smoothest and best experience possible. So definitely reach out to us in any kind of way.
For sure. All right, well, I think we had a good tips and tricks this evening. Thank you all for coming out tonight, hanging out with us through tips and tricks. Wish my MacBook luck. She'll hang in there. I know she'll do better tomorrow. But yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to help at writerduet.com. Or visit the knowledge base. If you go in the knowledge base and you're looking for video tutorials, just search for video knowledge base, and there will be a link to our video tutorials on YouTube there. And we also have other events coming up, so please feel free to check back at Facebook to see what other writing events we have going on in our future tips and tricks events. Thank you again for coming out tonight. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, guys. Have a great evening.